Hello all, this documentary is about rabies and it is dedicated to a great scientist called Louis Pasteur who invented vaccination for rabies. Disclaimer: this video is 100% for educational purposes and made by a 13-year-old student. Majority of the content, including pictures, are taken from the sea of www. Please forgive me should I have violated any of copyrights. Viewer discretion advised. Some pictures may be scary but depicts reality. This video contains information about a deadly disease, the rabies. Although rabies is 100% preventable, one person dies from it every 9 minutes worldwide. The purpose of this video is to spread knowledge about rabies and not to spread any hate towards animals. Animals are the most loving creatures of our planet. In the period of January to September 2021, 5 human deaths caused by rabies has been reported in Tunisia, North Africa. A 6-year-old kid died of rabies at the Government Institute of Child Health in Egmore, in a neighborhood of Chennai, India. He was bitten by a street dog. In the second week of May 2021, the Ministry of Health, Malaysia, reported 4th human rabies death case in Sarawak, Malaysia. A 45-year-old male citizen was admitted to the hospital with symptoms of fever, headache, sore throat, and hydrophobia. He had history of being bitten twice by his colleague's dog. The rabies outbreak was declared on 1st July 2017 in Sarawak, Malaysia. Since then, the number of rabies cases has been 35 with 33 deaths. In mid of May 2021, within a week's time, 2 human rabies deaths were reported in a hospital at Karachi, Pakistan. A 6-year-old boy died when he was bitten on his face by a rabid dog. In second case, a 24-year-old man also died after getting rabies virus transmitted to him through the wound. In the end of July 2021, the media published a shocking news where an 11-year-old boy in Ludhiana, in the Punjab state of India, died after being bitten by a dog. The boy concealed his parents that he was bitten by a dog. Rather, he told his parents he had just injured his leg while he was playing. Thus, the parents did not take him to the hospital. Few days later, the boy started behaving very abnormally. His condition deteriorated and he started frothing at his mouth. The parents took him to the hospital. Alas, it was just too late. The doctors found that the boy was infected with rabies. He died. In Philippines, the Iloilo Provincial Health Office (PHO) has reported 5 human rabies deaths during the first 3 months of 2021. This compares to 7 human rabies deaths for all of 2020. Since September 2020, 2 death cases of human rabies have been reported at the Department of Health, Willow, Columbia, USA. In one of the cases, a 26-year-old woman died after being bitten by her cat, which transmitted the deadly rabies virus to her. In one of the confirmed human rabies case in South Africa for 2021, a 7-year-old boy died due to rabies. He was bitten by a dog. The boy was unable to walk or eat and was experiencing confusion and hallucinations. In 2020, a 30-year-old man died in Japan due to infection with rabies. During traveling abroad, he was bitten by a stray dog on his ankle. Last year, a 31-year-old woman died due to rabies in Bengaluru, India. She was bitten by stray dogs. Even a 6-year-old boy from Florida died from rabies after receiving just a scratch from a sick bat. His wound was clean, but the parents did not take him to the hospital because he cried when they told him he would need an injection. After a week of the incident, the little boy reported numb fingers, headache, and started hallucinating and was taken to the hospital where tests confirmed that he had the deadly disease rabies. These are just a few cases. The fact is that over 59,000 people die of rabies every year. Thus, rabies causes the death of one person every 9 minutes worldwide. Over 95% human deaths due to rabies occur in the Asia and Africa regions. 40% of the people which are bitten by suspect rabid animals are children which are under 15 years of age. Rabies is present in 150 countries and in all the continents except Antarctica. Globally, rabies causes an estimated cost of US $8.6 billion every year. Rabies is a vaccine preventable zoonotic viral disease. Once clinical symptoms appear, rabies is virtually 100% fatal. There is no cure for rabies then. Hi, I'm Jarvis Talwar, studying in Class 8 at Global Indian International School, Malaysia campus. The purpose of making this video is to send an awareness across the globe about the deadly fatal disease of concern, the rabies. My tiny efforts are towards the worldwide efforts of United Against Rabies to achieve the global goal of zero human rabies deaths by 2030. I'm also a rabies educator, and I will share with you my understanding about the disease rabies. Rabies has been known since around 2000 BC. For centuries, the rabies disease has inspired many remedies and dark magical and religious concepts. Viper's venom, the liver of a mad dog, applying red hot rod on the wound were used for the treatment of rabies, but none worked and victims still died. Nothing was working. The year 1885 marked a turning point for rabies. That was the year when humans got 100% confidence that they can prevent rabies. So what was discovered in 1885? Allow me to take you in that era. In the year 1831, an 8-year-old boy in a small French town was bitten by a mad wolf. The poor boy was submitted to then traditional treatment for bad animal bites. Burn the wood with extreme red-hot iron rod of a blacksmith. How painful! The poor boy screamed and cried. However, later he died. His screams were witnessed and heard by a young kid named Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur was never able to forget the scene and always remained curious. He always wondered why the little boy of his town died after getting bitten by the mad wolf. Why the wolf became mad? What disease the wolf had? Why the boy needs to go through such pain to cure the disease? Louis Pasteur was a very curious kid. He kept on asking such puzzling questions even to his school teachers. One of his teachers advised him to study hard and keep on trying and never give up So one day he could go to the best schools in Paris and there he could get answers to all of his questions. Louis Pasteur toiled hard. He became very studious and was very determined and eventually graduated and became professor at the University of Strasbourg. There he fell in love and in 1849 he married to his beloved, who was daughter of the university rector. The couple together had 5 children. In the year 1857, Louis Pasteur moved to Paris as the director of scientific studies. He did historical research that growth of microorganisms is responsible for spoiling beverages such as milk, beer, and wine. He invented the pasteurization process. This process is very famous till date. Next time, whenever you go to the supermarket and buy milk, find the word pasteurization on the bottle. It's still on every milk bottle today. Whenever you see the word pasteurization on a milk bottle, just close your eyes and thank Louis Pasteur. He proposed the germ theory which further revolutionized the medical world. In the early 1870s, Pasteur had already become a renowned leader in research. In the early 1877, he started spending most of his time in the study of diseases. At that time, many chickens were dying due to chicken cholera. The farmers approached Louis Pasteur for his help. Louis Pasteur started working very hard to find a solution to conquer the disease of chicken cholera. He was using many inoculation methods on the chickens but was not getting satisfactory results. During the experiments, many chickens were still dying. Louis Pasteur and his team were trying very hard. In 1879, a very interesting thing happened. While conducting research, Louis Pasteur had instructed his assistant to inject the chickens with a fresh culture of the viral bacteria. Since it was a holiday season, his assistant forgot what Louis Pasteur had instructed and went on vacation. After returning from vacations, the assistant performed the procedure using the old cultures. He injected the chicken with the old culture carrying weak and tiny chicken cholera disease. Very interestingly, the chickens showed very mild signs of the chicken cholera disease and survived. The microbe weakened in the lab had taught the chicken immune system to fight the infection without causing any serious harm to the chicken. This move helped the good fighter bacteria in the body of the chicken to wake up and ready for the fight. Few days later, Louis Pasteur injected full dose of fresh nasty bacteria into the body of the same chicken. Wow, it was a great surprise. The chicken did not fall ill at all. This step led to the discovery of the chicken cholera vaccine by Louis Pasteur. Using similar technique, Louis Pasteur developed a vaccination against anthrax disease and saved the lives of many humans and animals, including sheep, cattle, and goats. By this time, Louis Pasteur became a known name in the scientific community. He saved the lives of many animals, but the terrible incident happened at his town during his childhood days was still making his nights sleepless. He was very much determined to find the vaccination against that disease. On an early morning of July 4th, 1885, in a town named Alsace of eastern France, a 9-year-old boy named Joseph was attacked by a mad dog. The dog bit the boy at 14 places, including his hand, thigh, and legs. The wounds at the legs were so deep that the boy could hardly walk. In the evening, at around 8 p.m., a local doctor treated the deep wounds of the kid by sealing them with doses of carbonic acid. This was a very horrible process and caused extreme pain to Joseph. The mother of the child was very fearful and concerned that the child may get rabies. At that time, rabies was known as a sure path to death. There was a rumor in the town Alsace that a scientist in Paris was working to cure rabies. The mother of the child, Mrs. Meister, took him to Paris by traveling a distance of 475 kilometers. After reaching Paris, the frantic mother was roaming in the street of Paris, asking people about the scientist who could help her son to prevent rabies. Someone took her directly to the laboratory of a famous scientist, Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur was working very hard to develop a vaccine for rabies, using dogs as his experimental subjects. He began studying rabies in 1880, but by 1885, his rabies vaccine had not been fully tested, even in animals. There were few controversies which were stopping Louis Pasteur to treat the boy Joseph. Until now, he had never successfully tried his rabies vaccine on a human being before. Louis Pasteur was not a doctor. He was only allowed to try his experiments on animals. Since Louis Pasteur was not a medical doctor and could have been prosecuted if the boy Joseph did not survive the injections. In fact, he could not do so legally because he was not a licensed physician. Rather, he was a scientist and his doctorate was awarded for dissertations in chemistry and physics. However, Louis Pasteur knew that the boy would die from rabies virus if he did nothing. Pasteur knew that because of the number of bites by the mad dog on Joseph's body, his death was almost certain. Pasteur was so taken by the mother's plight that he consulted two physicians of Académie de Médecine, Dr. Alfred Vulpain and Dr. Jacques Grancher. Both the physicians were also struck by the need to do something to save the boy Joseph. On July 6, 1885, some 60 hours after the initial dog attack, the first vaccine was injected to Joseph by Dr. Grancher, who was a medical colleague of Louis Pasteur. The material used was from the spinal cord of a rabbit that had died from rabies. The child was given 13 further injections in 10 days. Each dose came from progressively more rabid rabbits, more stronger doses. During entire treatment, Pasteur watched anxiously at the boy's health. To his overwhelming joy, the boy recovered. The boy's health appeared excellent. This first vaccination was a great success. Joseph Meister never developed rabies and became the first human being to be successfully vaccinated. 1885 was the year where Louis Pasteur conquered rabies. In October 1885, a brave effort was reported at Jura region in the east of France. A 15-year-old shepherd, Jean-Baptiste Jupel, saved the lives of 6 younger shepherds from being bitten by a rabid dog. The young kid, armed only with a whip, threw himself in front of the mad dog. He eventually killed the mad dog. During this incident, the young Jupel received many bites from the mad dog. The boy was brought to Louis Pasteur's lab, where Louis Pasteur began Jean-Baptiste's treatment on the 20th of October 1885 with one injection per day. The treatment by Louis Pasteur successfully protected the boy from rabies. After getting success of two experiments with Joseph and Juppel, the proud Louis Pasteur presented a paper about his rabies vaccination to the French Academy of Sciences. Soon after word spread about Pasteur's vaccination on rabies, hundreds of people came to visit the great scientist. Due to Louis Pasteur's efforts, the people who were bitten by rabid animals no longer had to die if they were able to get vaccinated before the rabies virus reached their nervous system. Victims of mad dog and wolf bites from France, Russia, United States visited his laboratory for treatment. Within a year, by October 1886, more than 2,000 patients were vaccinated at the Pasteur laboratory. Louis Pasteur became a hero and a legend. As the news further spread to the world, Louis Pasteur became an international hero. This universal victory of anti-rabies vaccination contributed to the creation of the Pasteur Institute in 1888 in Paris. Louis Pasteur founded the Institute of Pasteur in Paris as the Center for Rabies Treatment, a research center for infectious diseases, as well as for the studies on microbiology. Though a stroke at the age of 46 made Louis Pasteur briefly paralyzed on the left side of his body, still he continued doing research until 1888. Rabies was the last major research of this great scientist. Louis Pasteur had 5 children, but only 2 of them survived to adulthood. The other 3 children died of typhoid. The death of his children strengthened Louis Pasteur's resolve to find the cure for deadly and infectious diseases. Louis Pasteur was an exceptional scientist, great experimenter, and an imaginative philosopher. He died on 28 September 1895 after opening a new era in medicine and biology. He was buried as a national hero by the French government. His funeral was attended by thousands of people. Undoubtedly, Louis Pasteur is one of the most famous and exceptional scientists in the world, who is universally recognized as the benefactor of humanity. Here are some of the quotations by the great scientist and our hero, Louis Pasteur. One does not ask of one who suffers, what is your country and what is your religion. One merely says, you suffer, that is enough for me. When I approach a child, he inspires in me two sentiments: tenderness for what he is, and respect for what he may become. Let me tell you the secret that has led me to my goal. My strength lies solely in my tenacity. World Rabies Day takes place each year on September 28th, the anniversary of the death of Louis Pasteur. Started in 2007 to raise awareness about rabies prevention and to highlight progress in defeating the horrifying disease. After the story of how the rabies vaccination was invented by Louis Pasteur, we will now continue to get to know more about rabies. I am now going to answer the important questions which are related to rabies. What is rabies? How rabies can be transmitted? Why is rabies so scary? Rabies incubation period. What happens once one is bitten by a rabid animal? What should we do after an animal bite, or how to prevent these animal bites? What is your role to prevent rabies? Come, let us learn together. What is rabies? Rabies is a zoonotic disease caused by a virus. Now, what is a zoonotic disease? A zoonotic disease means that if an animal, more specifically warm-blooded mammals in the case of rabies, has the disease, it can pass it on to other humans. Warm-blooded animals like dogs, bats, raccoons, foxes, cats, cattle, wolves, skunks, jackals, coyotes, mongooses can cause rabies disease. In fact, all the warm-blooded animals, particularly the mammals, can acquire rabies, but some are more likely to transmit it than others. It is estimated that worldwide, 90% of exposures are due to rabid dogs. Those exposures cause 99% of the human deaths. In the US, most human deaths are due to the exposure to rabid bats. Now, how is rabies even transmitted? Rabies is transmitted through the saliva of an infected animal. The infected animal can spread virus when it bites another animal or a human being. There is a possibility that rabies can be spread when an infected saliva gets into an open wound. For rabies to happen, the saliva which contains the virus has to enter inside the body. This can happen through an animal bite, through an open wound, or when the saliva enters the mucous membrane through nose, or even by eyes. In simple terms, if a dog has rabies and it bites a human being, it can pass the disease on to the human. And for pet lovers like myself, if an animal like a dog or cat or any other animal doesn't have rabies, there is not at all any threat from that animal. It's always great fun and love to play with such loving animals. Why is rabies so scary? Rabies is the deadliest disease on earth, and you will have a 99.9% chance of dying if you do not get treatment immediately after getting infected. The treatment for rabies will, however, ensure that you are protected against the deadly disease. What is rabies incubation period? The time between the bite and the signs of rabies appearing in a person is called the incubation period. The person usually shows signs of the disease in 1 to 3 months, but they could show signs in less than a week, or it could take more than a year to show the signs. What happens once one is bitten by a rabid animal? Most of the time, while virus is in the human body at earlier stages, there is no symptoms. The virus travels along the nervous system to the brain without showing any symptoms. Once the virus reaches the brain, it's too late to stop it. It starts multiplying itself, invades the brain, and permanently damages it. There is some extreme good news. Rabies does not have any cure. However, it can be prevented by vaccination. After a person has been bitten and get immediate full course of rabies vaccination, he can prevent rabies. The vaccination must be given immediately to the victim so that the virus should not reach the nervous system. There's no definite external signs of rabies before the virus has reached the nervous system. The vaccination cannot cure rabies once the clinical symptoms appear in the victim. Now, coming to the most important question. What should you do if an animal bites you? Always remember these 3 most important steps. Step number 1 is to wash the wound thoroughly. Second step is to disinfect the wound. And the third step is to visit the nearest medical facility or doctor as soon as possible. Now that you know what to do after an animal bite, it is your duty to educate everyone on the same topic. If you get an animal bite or even a scratch, you should immediately wash the wound very thoroughly with a soap under running water for at least 15 to 20 minutes. Next, you should disinfect the wound with alcohol or iodine solution. After that, you should immediately visit a medical or health facility or a doctor. You should explain to them the entire incident in detail. There's an important message for all the kids of planet Earth. After an animal bite or even getting a scratch from an animal, do not panic. Stay calm and stay strong. It's very important that you must inform your parents or teachers immediately should you get an animal bite or a scratch from an animal. Now, what is your role? Your role is to contribute directly or indirectly towards the mission of 0 by 30. The global strategic plan to end human deaths from dog-mediated rabies by 2030 are by the organizations of World Organization for Animal Health, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, World Health Organization, Global Alliance for Rabies Control. These organizations cannot complete this mission alone and they need the help of all of us. Your role also includes getting yourself and your friends and families educated about rabies by spreading awareness through sharing this video. You can also learn more about rabies and become a qualified rabies educator by visiting education.rabiesalliance.org. The Rabies Educator Certificate or REC is a free online course developed to provide people with the knowledge and skills to teach their communities about rabies prevention. I am also a rabies educator. You can become too. Let us learn and educate people and communities around us. Now, what is our role? Dog vaccination is a key to stopping rabies transmission between dogs and from dogs to human beings. The average cost to vaccinate one dog is US $4.03. In most simple words, one dog can be vaccinated for $4. This eventually can save lives of humans. What is my role? I am on a mission to support 0 by 30. I am a rabies educator and I am hoping to become a community coordinator for rabies. I am also going to start a fundraising campaign for rabies. My goal is to raise funds and get minimum of 3,000 dogs vaccinated on or before my next birthday on 20th January 2022. Here is a quotation by me. Dogs are our babies, and if they are not vaccinated, they can cause rabies. If you want to donate in the fundraiser, a link to the donation page is given in the description box of the video. Kindly share this video with your nears and dears. I end this documentary by thanking Pasteur. He is the real hero behind the rabies vaccination. I am confident that we all will unite together to complete the zero human rabies deaths mission by 2030. This is my first video. Kindly comment your thoughts on this documentary about rabies. Here is my email address.